Whenever we have Jason Leisure on, I go to his Twitter feed over there at Jason Leisure, Lieser. I see what he's been thinking about, what he's been writing. And, we should ask you about DeAndre Swift, and you wrote about that. But it's funny because your pinned tweet is an article you wrote for the Sun-Times in early September. The Bears needed a truth teller and their fans, and they got one in new coach Ben Johnson. And I wonder... I've been thinking about it and talking about it. I wonder how much of what is happening is because they have a coach who tells the truth.
Yeah. Have you read that column?
Yes, I read it back then. I haven't read it again recently.
It was a fascinating conversation to have with him about, are you going to lie to all of us like the last Bears coaches have? And it got into this thing about his direct style of both talking to the media and to a greater extent talking to his assistants and his players. And I think what you're seeing from Ben Johnson, and this should not be remarkable, but it is here. You're just seeing this high level of competency. You are seeing someone unafraid to call things what they are, to say when things don't look right, and who can hold his own in any confrontation, any disagreement, whether that's in the building or with the media or with Troy Aikman or whatever. I think you are seeing someone that is incredibly competent and confident. And I just can't picture Ben Johnson, even a short time into covering him, I can't picture him, for example, kind of spinning himself in a circle in a press conference, or not really knowing how to handle a locker room after a game like the game in Detroit last year, or knowing what to do when Tyreek Stevenson storms out of practice and everyone's looking around like, isn't he going to say anything? I think that you have somebody that is really ready for the job in that job.
I appreciate about him, and I know it seems like a small thing, and I keep bringing it up. The way that he calls a 4-minute offense, the way that he seemingly has a handle on how to manage the clock. And you don't have to be a pro level on Madden when it comes to watching Ben Johnson do it. His crew of people and him seem utterly engaged in the gamesmanship of what goes on as the clock is winding down, and how to win a game at the end by possessing the ball till it goes 0.
Yeah, I liked his overarching philosophy Monday night of, we are not giving them the ball back to try to do something. So one way or another, we're taking the clock down to 0 and taking our shot last, not letting them take their shot last. It was so counterintuitive generally that he went to the run game in that situation, losing with 3 minutes left. That's usually a time where you're going to put it on your quarterback to win the game. And Caleb did make some plays during that, but they rode the run all the way down there. And DeAndre Swift is such an interesting story for the Bears, particularly because he has history with Ben Johnson. That's a little bit of a mixed bag where, he had some good production under Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson was also part of the group that was plenty happy to trade him away for a 4th-round pick and start over with Jahmyr Gibbs. And then throughout this season, Eric Bieniemy and Ben Johnson have been talking about trying to get DeAndre Swift to be more of a power runner, even though he's small, and be a north-south runner. And they keep saying he's doing it. He's doing it. We're seeing it. We're seeing it in preseason games. We're seeing it in practices. And DeAndre Swift keeps saying, I'm not doing anything different.
Wow. Well, that's interesting because it did look like he was doing some things differently. And he is. And Ben Johnson said, this is what we expected of him after this game. So that's interesting. How much in your inspection of such things was DeAndre Swift, and how much was the improved offensive line doing Ben Johnson's scheme bidding in this game?
I hate when coaches say, well, it was everyone. Well, it was both. So I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to say, if I have to pick one, it's DeAndre Swift. I saw from the start of that game a guy that was just charging straight ahead and hitting the hole. And if more opened up after that, he could get extra yards. after he got through the line of scrimmage, great. But I saw a guy who was not going to lose yards, and I think that is different than what we've seen from DeAndre Swift over the past year.
When it comes to watching the continued development of Caleb Williams, I hope that people aren't conflating the Bears are winning games with Caleb is a finished product, because I don't think that he is. But I do think that if you were worried about the gap between Caleb and Jaden Daniels, I think that Caleb is narrowing that gap. Is that too optimistic?
It's a big gap, though. I think he's chipping away at it, but it's a big gap. And that's just objectively look at last season. Jaden Daniels in a pretty, I don't want to say as bad a situation, because Jaden Daniels had really good coaching and a really good offensive line, but inheriting almost as bad of a team coming in. And he wins Rookie of the Year, and he goes to the conference championship game. And Caleb didn't do those things. Caleb was, it's a big gap going into this year. But yes, the first 5 games of this year, Caleb Williams has chipped away at that. And you're never going to chip away more at that than when you actually face each other. But to your first point, Lawrence, you read my mind. This is something I've been thinking about with Caleb Williams. Would we all agree he's playing better?
Yes.
Absolutely.
This is better, right?
Oh, my God,
This
yes.
is better. But you would still look at any of these games, even the Cowboys games, and say, there's a lot here that he's not reaching. There's a lot of potential growth that he hasn't hit yet. So I think that's incredibly encouraging for Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, and the offense at large, that he is already playing better, yet there is still much more that he could do. That completion percentage is still not there, not even close, really. And you're still seeing progress. So you're getting good enough quarterback play to win now, but also the potential that it gets so much better. And I think I've said this 50 times on this show, that there is no bigger way for a team to improve in season than for a young quarterback to figure it out. If that happens, then if Caleb Williams takes off like a rocket in the second half of the season, the Bears will too.
Yeah, it's funny. I just realized a way that kind of ties the room together here, at least for me. We've had so many conversations in the years sitting here and dissecting Mitch Trubisky and then Justin Fields and now Caleb Williams, where we're trying to be fair irrespective of the wins and losses.
Right.
And now I still want to be fair and honest about what we're seeing irrespective of the wins and losses. It's the same thing. That's great that they got a win. It emboldens the teaching and the development. And I love the growth that I'm seeing from Caleb Williams. But it's okay to say he's got to throw more of a runner's ball to maximize the routes. It's okay to say that first deep ball to Rome,
underthrown.
Way underthrown. It's okay to comment on these things and notice these things. And I'm sure that Ben Johnson is doing so in their film sessions. Right, Jason?
Yeah, and I've thought all along this would work. I think a lot of people did. That's not profound that you take the top quarterback of that draft class and the top offensive coach available, top coach period available in the last couple of hiring cycles, and say, oh, that'll work. It's not a genius idea to think matching those two is going to work. But I think one of the things that hadn't been grasped by everybody was how eager Caleb was and is to embrace that teaching, to embrace the expertise that he's now getting. And I think that gives you the promise that this is going to continue to get better, because you're seeing him embrace it and implement it to the extent that he can as a second-year quarterback right now.
Yeah,
so you're already seeing signs that he's going to keep doing that.
Yeah, and he knows the opportunity that's ahead of him. And I think you could see in the offseason, like when he was on the St. Brown Brothers podcast right away, like he was talking to real dudes and Amon-Ra, a real winner. And he was saying, oh, man, you better get ready. And Caleb's like, I'm ready. I want to do it. And that's still where he is. Six weeks in, he's psyched to be coached by that man every single day. And you're seeing it.
See, those comments were telling too, though, Matt, because obviously we all could sit here and say on paper, what the Bears are getting in Ben Johnson is a great strategist, someone who really knows how to coach quarterbacks. And Caleb Williams could know coming in, okay, the things this guy teaches me about how I see the game and about my footwork and things like that, it's all going to be sound information. But you're also seeing Ben Johnson. I mean, he's not just a guy with a pocket protector and a calculator and graph paper and like he's accessing his Dan Campbell side, it seems like. And you hear that from Caleb Monday night after the game, the way he's talking about how Ben's confidence kind of fires him up when Ben Johnson is on the headset saying, "Oh, this is a great play call. Get ready for this." And then gives him a play call. Caleb's like, that's his vibe. That's what he wants in his ear. That supreme confidence that there's no way that anything like that was coming from Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus.
It's fascinating that you bring that up, and we're talking with Jason Leisure of the Sun-Times, and he joins our show once a week, and occasionally he'll come and hang out and host the show too. I am fascinated by the multiple personalities of Ben Johnson because I think you're right. I think the inside of a game, he is that guy, but there's still the guy that knows how to manage the clock. I think after the game, he is the angry, disappointed teacher going through the film and trying to figure out how to make his team better. And now we've gotten to a place where he is lifting Caleb up in some of these moments, saying, hey, you were born for this, going out there and win the game for us. The fact that he knows himself that well and can dip into those different facets of his personality, I think is extremely encouraging.
I thought from afar, and I still see it, I think a lot of his personality, Ben Johnson's personality, reminds me of Tom Brady's personality. Just that confidence, that enthusiasm, just never in doubt. And if you compare that to like Shane Waldron's personality, it's more like your geometry teacher. And I don't know, which one of those do you think clicks better with a guy like Caleb Williams?
It's funny because I think Ben has a little bit of he's got some computer nerd in him, as he knows, and Dan Campbell still likes to give him crap about. And so he's worked to compensate that, lifting, and like trying to access that physical side of him. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. Coordinators will talk tomorrow. Caleb talked today, and Mark Grote at the top of the 5 o'clock hour will give us some of that sound. But news-wise, what else has there been to come out? This is still Cairo Santos's job as a kicker, right? Like no matter what, Jake Moody 4 for 5, get carried off. But if Cairo's healthy, this is his job.
And it should be. No doubt about it. It should be. I mean, I understand the excitement about Jake Moody and what he did Monday night, and that is awesome that he did that, and great for him. Cairo Santos has been rock steady for them for 6 years. He is the most accurate field goal kicker in the history of the Chicago Bears. He is the most accurate field goal kicker in the history of Soldier Field. You want Cairo Santos if you have your choice out of the two. Now, I don't want Cairo Santos if something's bothering him still. And that's where the Bears might have to make a decision. I don't know, with the other 31 teams, or I guess 30 teams, because San Francisco definitely wouldn't be in the play for this. I don't know if somebody else is looking at Jake Moody or needs him. You can't let him leave, because if you don't have Cairo Santos completely good to go, you don't want to let your backup plan sign with somebody else. So they might have to end up signing him to the active roster for a short time in order to keep that insurance policy in place. But certainly...
And they can only bring him back up one more time before they do have to sign him. So the rule is that you can appear twice, be a practice squad guy, be a game day call up. That third time that you're called up, you have to be added to the 53-man roster.
Yeah, but also, and I know you guys know this, but everybody might not. Being on the practice squad means nothing. He's basically a free agent. He is a free agent.
He can be signed off of the practice squad by any team in the league.
But it's his choice. It's not like being on waiver claims. So somebody can come and offer him a contract, and he can tell the Bears, hey, I got an offer from fill in the blank. But he's a free agent. I mean, Jake Moody could leave anytime for an offer.
Jason, we appreciate you. Thank you very much, sir.